like food and football and friends, and you don't have to go to temple. That's the best part. And this all started when I was a little kid. When I was about 5 years old, my parents had signed me up for a bunch of book clubs. And 1 month, it must have been November, came this book called Cranberry Thanksgiving. Cranberry, you're nodding, right? Yeah. Cranberry Thanksgiving is the story of Maggie, who lives on a cranberry bog with her grandma. And come Thanksgiving, they're each allowed to invite a guest. And Grandma invites this guy who's new to town. His name is Mr. Horace, and he has a walking stick, and he smells like lavender. And Maggie, much to Grandma's chagrin, Maggie invites her friend, the salty old sailor, Mr. Whiskers. And everybody gets together at Thanksgiving, and Mr. Whiskers has terrible table manners, and Mr. Horace is very nice. And as Grandma's in the kitchen, they realize that Mr. Horace is spying, trying to find the recipe for Grandma's famous cranberry bread, and chaos ensues. And on the last page of the book is the recipe for Grandma's famous cranberry bread. And that year when I was 5, we made that for the first time. Every year since I was 5 years old, I have made Grandma's cranberry bread. And you have to, the whole thing starts, you have to do something called cutting the butter and flour together, which means you're breaking the butter into little tiny pieces and each one gets coated with flour, right? And they sell tools for this purpose, and I own these tools, but I can't use them. I find them useless. And ultimately, what I've learned over the years is that if you're gonna make the cranberry bread, you gotta get in there, like up to the wrist, and you gotta feel it, right? So I make the cranberry bread when I'm 5, and when I'm 6, and when I'm 9, and all these years, the cranberry bread stays the same, except there was this one year when I was in grad school when I thought spelt flour and carob chips would be an improvement, but it was not. Don't do that. And every year, I've made the same cranberry bread, and that has stayed the same. But life, over the years, life changes. And my sister gets married, and I get married, and my parents get divorced. And I have kids, and they're idiots. They won't eat the cranberry bread, right? I know. I read them the book. I make them read the book. I was like, you will read Cranberry Thanksgiving with me in this chair. It will be a happy family moment. Now we will make and eat the cranberry bread. And they're like, no. And my parents at this point are divorced, and it's all okay. You know, we alternate who we're with, whatever year. And my mom marries Donald, and they move to Florida, and my dad marries Mary, and they move to Florida, and my grandma's already in Florida, and now everybody lives up and down Jog Road, all like in a row, and I spend every vacation up and down Jog Road. Comes, I guess it was in August, and I get this call from Mary, and she's hysterical. They're in the emergency room. My father has suddenly vomited blood copiously, and they've taken him to the emergency room, and they're pretty sure that he has bleeding ulcers. And, okay, well, that's okay. We can deal with bleeding ulcers, right? And a couple of days go by, and my dad calls, and he says, it's not bleeding ulcers. He has pancreatic cancer, and it's spread to his liver, and we all know what this means. And this is August. And so come, I guess, September and October, we were planning on being at my mom's anyway for Thanksgiving. And I call my mom, and I say to her, I need this thing from you, please, because this is it. Like, there's not going to be another Thanksgiving with Daddy alive. And I need you to please let Dad and Mary come, like, one time before it's too late. I need to have everybody in the same room at Thanksgiving. Like, you don't even have to talk to them, but please let them come. And she does, and they don't, and it's okay with me, because we're all in the same place at the same time. And we have cranberry bread. I come down one of those big, you know, those big green, like, big Y shopping bags. I'm on the airplane with my rollerboard and a big green bag full of cranberry bread, because over the years it has become my job to make the cranberry bread. Every year I make it and I ship it, only this time I don't have to. One year my father had called me and said, you know, you should know On the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I sit at the window like a dog waiting for the FedEx truck because I know when he pulls up, it's going to be for me. And that same year, he said to me, but I got to ask you a favor. He goes, next year, no more. He goes, don't send one loaf. No more one loaf. Because that doesn't even make it to Thanksgiving. You got to send two. And what I didn't tell him was, of course I'll send two. Because I was making it for him all along. It's just as long as I was making it, I'll send some to Lisa, I'll send some to my mother, whatever. It was his cranberry bread. So that Thanksgiving, we had the cranberry bread. And then I went back up north, and I spent a lot of time flying up and down while he was sick. And in June, my sister and I went down for what we knew would be the last time. And we stayed at my mother's, and we drove up and down Jog Road, and we visited my father, and we came home, and we slept, and it was all sad and difficult, and it was what it was. And then one morning, at my mother's house, I went to fix myself a Diet Coke, and I poured the Diet Coke in the glass, and I went to the freezer to get the ice. And like a miracle, left over from Thanksgiving, there was one loaf of cranberry bread. And I didn't ask permission because I figured forgiveness would be easier, right? And I took the cranberry bread and I sort of hid it in my room until it defrosted. And I brought it with me to my father's that day. And he, at this point, he didn't really get out of bed anymore. And I brought the cranberry bread, I sliced it, and I brought it into his room, and I fed him little pieces into his mouth. And at the end of that week, I went home, and they called me on Sunday and said my father had died. And that was a couple of years ago, and I still make the cranberry bread. I still take out the big potluck salad bowl because I'm going to make a big batch, and I still get elbow deep into the butter and the sugar, and I still feel my way through. I still make any child within range listen to me read about Maggie and Grandma. I still roll my eyes when my children won't eat that damn cranberry bread, but I make it anyway. And I wait, because what I've learned in these years is that life goes on, and life changes, but the cranberry bread stays the same. And someday in my life, there will be more children, and I'll make the cranberry bread, and I'll read the book, and I'll tell them the stories of the man who liked it best. Thank you.